It is time for the third major golf tournament of the year. It is the U.S. Open. Not quite as big as the Canadian Open last week, but it is still a tournament that we will be talking about. We do have picks for it as myself. And if you can't recognize him behind the mask, it is Cody Williams, who is fighting the good fight today. He has COVID. He's still going to do the show. He's still going to give out picks. Cody, are you surviving?
I am surviving. Some would even say thriving. I think the U.S. Open week is really getting me through this. I mean, it's not quite the high of the Canadian Open, but it's up there.
Did you get COVID on purpose so you could just stay isolated and locked up in a room and watching the U.S. Open all week?
It was not the intent, but it is a fortunate consequence.
Very nice. Really quick before we get into that, we will touch a little bit on the Canadian Open. Rory McIlroy obviously won the Canadian Open, back-to-back Canadian Open champion. Now, I officially declared him on the behalf of my country that he is now an honorary Canadian for winning back-to-back events, putting on just a ball-striking clinic on Sunday. What a great event. What a great finish for the PGA Tour, who had him, Justin Thomas, and Tony Finau just going deep on Sunday. What I think is a final threesome. I think they shot 20 under par combined. Could not have asked for a better outcome, especially with Rory and JT being two of the biggest kind of outspoken leaders of the PGA Tour the week that the LIV Golf event happened. But really quick, did you watch any of the LIV event whatsoever, Cody? Any real quick thoughts on the LIV Golf event?
So I watched on Thursday for a little bit because, I think everyone, had to see what was going on. And I will say it's amazing what happens when you have, Saudi government money paying for everything and not sponsors, because the coverage was actually awesome because it's nonstop golf,
Yes.
and having the leaderboard, like there were good aspects of the coverage, but I don't know many people who watched Friday and Saturday because there's no stakes. Like
Correct.
I don't care how much these dudes are making. Like I don't watch Rory McIlroy and Justin Thomas battle it out on Sunday to see who wins $1.5 million. That's not why I watch.
I could not have said any of that better myself. That is my exact thoughts. I tuned in on Thursday just to see what it would be like, and I actually tuned in on Friday just to see the viewership difference, and it was about half the viewers watching it on Friday, which wasn't very surprising. But yeah, you're right. At the end of the day, I don't care. Who cares who wins out of it? Like, there's no prestige to the event. I don't care that they're going to win, one of the biggest prize purses in all of golf outside of the FedEx Cup. Like, who cares? Like, even the FedEx Cup, nobody on the PGA Tour, no one really cares that much about the FedEx Cup. Obviously, we do a little bit, but it's no major tournament. It's no Canadian Open, that's for sure, which is the tournament I care about the most. The team event, the fact that it was teams was a little bit interesting. I don't get why they're redrafting teams. Like, then you just, don't even get attached to the teams. The shotgun start was a little bit interesting as well, too. I think that might be a good thing for Thursday, Friday. I don't think that would work on Saturday or Sunday, especially on Sunday, but I think it's a neat idea the PGA Tour might want to explore for the early rounds.
Yeah, in terms of just strictly looking at the golf and how the event was put on, there were some interesting aspects that I think the PGA Tour could, drift off of. But at the same time, the totality of it was it went off smoother than I expected it to, but that doesn't mean it was a success, in my opinion, if that makes sense.
Yes, and to be honest, I don't think I'll watch it again. I think I watched it on Thursday to see what it's like. I have no real interest in watching it again. Do you have any thoughts on the Canadian Open?
It was exactly what the PGA Tour needed in the face of LIV Golf. It would have been good to have any kind of drama on Sunday, but to have three, top 20 players in the world battling it out in the final group, and not just battling it out, but at the top of their games, battling it out on Sunday.
Yeah.
It really, and then to have Rory immediately take a shot at Greg Norman after winning was even better. So
perfect. It was chef's kiss. Also, Canadian fans, I love the Canadian fans there. They're a rowdy bunch. They love it.
It was awesome. It was incredible.
All right, let's get into the U.S. Open before we get into our picks. We actually will recap last week, but I do want to quickly bring up, if you haven't seen it already, BetSided is giving away a $1,000 Visa gift card. We did it for the PGA Championship. We did $500. It went so well, we are now doubling the prize for the U.S. Open. So all you got to do is check the pinned tweet on the BetSided Twitter account, retweet that tweet, make sure you're following BetSided, reply with your pick to win the U.S. Open. Include hashtag contest entry, and you'll be entered to win a $1,000 Visa gift card. If your golfer wins, if you're the only person to pick that golfer, you just automatically win the prize. If more than one person picks the winner, then you will be entered in a draw. And then we'll randomize who gets the $1,000 gift card. Because like I said on Daily Bet Slip, if 100 people pick Rory McIlroy, we unfortunately can't give out $100,000 worth of Visa gift cards. There'll be one winner, so maybe you want to pick a guy who's a little bit more of a dark horse to give you a better shot if that person does win. Really quick, we need to recap last week's picks. Let's start. I mean, neither of us. I think for people watching the show, what your strategy should be is to take our picks, but then do one step further back. So if we pick a guy to finish top 10, you should pick him top 20. If we pick a guy top 5, you should pick top 10. If we pick a guy to win, pick him top 5. Because that was the theme of this past week. To be fair, you did have 2 guys who withdrew, so you only had 3 of your 5 picks. So you teed it off. Your pick to miss the cut, Patrick Reed, he withdrew because probably the reason why is because he ended up announcing that he's going to join Live Golf. Complete side note, all the villains from the PGA Tour are going over to Live Golf. Like, we need villains still. That's kind of like my biggest concern. We have no villains left.
Yeah, someone's going to have to, fall into like a vat of acid or something like that and become a real super villain with all this going
on. Top 20, David Lipsky, who's your pick to finish on the top 20. He missed the cut. Your top 10 pick, CT Pan, also withdrew. Top 5, Matt Fitzpatrick, finished T10. So there you go. If you just take one step back, that would have been a winner. And your winner, Sam Burns, finished T4. You take one step back with him, he finished T5, or he finished top 5. You hit a winner there. So, and it was the same thing with me. Top 20, Mackenzie Hughes, he finished T28. So right out of that window. Top 10, Adam Hadwin, he wasn't quite as close. He finished T35. But then Corey Connors, picked him to finish top 5. He finished solo 6th. My winner, Cam Smith, had a disappointing round. I will be talking about him a little bit here in the next segment. My pick to miss the cut, Harold Varner. I should stop taking these top guys. I hit a few big names to miss the cut a couple weeks in a row, and then I started getting aggressive with them, and it hasn't paid off. I've looked real dumb the last 2 weeks with my miss the cut bets. So maybe a pick that I'm a little bit more confident in this week.
Yeah, it was a tough week. I mean, I was waiting for Burns to make his move like he did at Colonial, and he just never did on Sunday. And I mean, it didn't help that Rory and JT were going off, and it also didn't help that 2 of my guys, withdrew. So that put me behind the 8 ball to start. But more importantly, I feel like I should cash the Reed bet because not only did he not make the cut, but he's not even on the PGA Tour. So that's how far he was away from the cut.
Great point. Yeah, I'll count that as a winner for you. And then, of course, the only thing that we didn't bring up about last week, then we're going to get in the U.S. Open picks here in a second, is closest to the win. Your boy Iain is back with a win. I had Adam Svensson, who actually had a fantastic week by his standards. T21, you had Peter Malnati, who missed the cut, so that means the closest to the win gets back to 3-2, I believe.
Correct.
So we're going to start off our U.S. Open picks with our picks for closest to the win. If you haven't watched before, all we do is pick 2 golfers who are at least 150-1 odds or longer. It's a competition between myself and Cody. Whichever of our 2 golfers finishes further up the leaderboard at the end of the week gets a point. And at the end of the season, the loser has to pay for a round of golf for the winner. So far, Cody is in the lead by a score of 3-2, so I can tie it up if I win closest to the win this week. So go ahead and get into it. Give me your pick for closest to the win, and as you do that, I'm going to turn off my air conditioning because I think it's loud and it's really cold in this room now. So give me your pick for closest to the win.
So for closest to the win this week, I'm going with Adri Arnaus. I believe that's how you say his name. He is a Spanish golfer who primarily plays on the DP World Tour. He actually hasn't played on the PGA Tour this season, but he does have a win on the DP World Tour and finished second in a playoff this season as well on the DP World Tour. And the only time he's played stateside, he was T30 at the PGA Championship, and he was actually within the top 20, but then faded a little bit on the weekend. In that tournament, though, he gained 2.23 strokes per round tee to green, but just kind of bled with the putter. He's not a long hitter, so he wasn't gaining strokes with distance with his driver, but he's an accurate hitter, and he plays really well with his approach, and around the greens, he just can't putt. But I think he's a 27-year-old that's starting to round into form that we've seen in the DP World Tour, and I saw him at 200-1, and I think he's just playing better worldwide than that would indicate, and so I really like him this week as closest to the win.
And he is coming off a pretty solid finish at the European Open last week as well, T16. My pick for closest to the win this week is Wyndham Clark. I'm not basing this off of any stats. I'm simply basing this off of recent form. T37 at the Memorial, followed it up with a T7 at the Canadian Open last week. Also, he did compete here back in 2013 at the U.S. Amateur. He's part of the small group of guys who competed at this course at the Country Club in 2013. So based on that and recent form, because the stats aren't good, I'll be honest, but I'd like him based on recent form alone. Wyndham Clark, who is listed also at 200 to 1.
No, I like that a lot. The only thing that would concern me about Clark would be I was looking at the strokes gained stats just from last week alone, and he gained so many with the putter. Which, if he has a hot putter, he could do it again, but that always worries me a little bit. But I did give him a look.
It's a very good point. Complete side note before we get into our actual bets for the U.S. Open. I meant to shout this out at the top of the show. Shout out to Lynn Grant. The DP World Tour, and it's not something we talked about this past week, has an event that I wish the PGA Tour did. They do a mixed event of men and women. Obviously, they let the women tee off closer. But for the first time ever, Lynn Grant, a woman, won the event, and she won by 9 strokes. So the event has been around for a little while. No woman has ever won it. She won it, and she won it in amazing fashion. So shout out to Lynn Grant. I love that event. I didn't get a chance to watch any of it this year. I have in years past, but it's always an event I wish the PGA Tour did too. Like, why not?
Oh, that would be awesome to see the PGA and LPGA tours combined for a week. Like, that would be incredible television.
Yeah, let the women tee up a little bit further, like they do in this event, and that evens the field though, pretty much.
And for anyone who would say that would be unfair, I'm pretty sure Lynn Grant was the only woman inside of the top 14 of the event. So
correct. It's not like the leaderboard is just all women at the top. Like I don't think it's an advantage. I think it just evens it out.
Exactly. No, I mean, I am 100% on board with that. The PGA Tour needs to get on that right now.
Yes. So she did deserve a shout out. I meant to bring it up at the top of the show. I forgot. So I did just want to bring that up. Shout out Lynn Grant from Sweden. She beat a fellow Swede, Henrik Stenson, who finished second. All right, let's get into our picks for the U.S. Open. We do miscut, top 20, top 10, top 5, and our picks to win. Let's start off where we always start off. Who's going to miss the cut this week, Cody?
Yeah, so you may be done taking big shots, but I'm not. I'm going with Patrick Cantlay to miss the cut this week. He is just the narrative around Patrick Cantlay is he's one of the best players in the world, except for the 4 weeks when there's a major championship. And I am fully buying into that, not just because of his lack of success at the majors, but also because he hasn't been in the form that we saw him at last year when he was, winning the Tour Championship and the FedEx Cup. He's starting to really bleed strokes when it comes to his short game, which has always been a really reliable part of his game. He's still ball striking decently well, but not as well as he was last year. And yes, the U.S. Open has been the major where he's arguably had his most success. He was T15 at the event last year, but when you combine his form and his seeming propensity to, shrink in the big moment of a major championship, I'm going with Patrick Cantlay at what should be very good odds to miss the cut this week.
Yeah, that is the one thing about us doing the show on Mondays, that the miss the cut odds aren't usually posted at books until Tuesday. Once tee times are released, it seems like. My one thing with Patrick Cantlay, and you're right, he has not performed well at majors whatsoever, but that seems strange to me because he got hot in the FedEx Cup playoffs and he won the FedEx Cup. And obviously he's not a major, but a lot of pressure. That's the playoffs of the PGA Tour. There's an absolute shit ton of money on the line in the FedEx Cup, and he performed. He was lights out during the playoffs last year. So, if he can play that well during the FedEx Cup, are the majors that different?
They really shouldn't be, but for whatever reason, he does struggle. And I don't have any. I mean, I don't have anything but my eyes, and my eyes tell me that when it's the 4 tournaments a year that we call major championships, he's just not the same player.
Correct. I won't argue against that too much. I just find that's kind of interesting about Patrick Cantlay. I guess the guy I'm picking to miss the cut is also a big name, but one that I might have a little bit more confidence in backing here, and that's Dustin Johnson. I think generally we should be fading these live guys. We saw Phil today. He's facing the music with this is not a live event. So we saw last week, I think 2 different reporters at the live press conferences got muscled out and forced out and couldn't ask questions. So not going to happen this week. Phil faced the music already. These live guys are probably not going to be all the way mentally there. I'm sure the fans during the rounds are going to be chirping them a little bit. Their fellow PGA Tour golfers, I saw that Spieth gave Kevin Na the cold shoulder already today. Like, it's not good for these live golfers. And also, like, Dustin Johnson just has not been playing well recently. Since his T12 at the Masters, he missed the cut of the RBC Heritage, T59 at Byron Nelson, and then missed the cut at the PGA Championship. And then he finished 8th at the live golf event. And that's 8th in a field that looked like a subpar Corn Ferry Tour field. Like, Dustin Johnson should have won that event by 5 strokes. He finished 8th behind guys by the name of Henny Duplessis, Peter Uihlein, Oliver Becker, and Adrian Otaegui. And he finished 8th.
Let's not forget Charles Schwartzel, who won the event. Like,
was it Schwartzel? Yeah, Schwartzel won the event. That's right.
Yeah,
I picked Grace. He finished 3rd. Yeah,
right. Like that leaderboard was. We didn't mention that, but that leaderboard was a disaster.
Yeah, and you mentioned, I mean, there's no commercials. You saw a ton of shots on Thursday when I was watching, but also the shots were being made by guys who I had no idea who they were. Just like random guys. So I'm going to go ahead and fade the live guys, especially Dustin Johnson this week. I do want to say 2 other names, and I brought this up in the daily bet slip earlier with Peter. I want to get your thoughts. I almost picked Cameron Smith to miss the cut. I got scared at the end. I ended up going back to Dustin Johnson. But I think, and we see this at the U.S. Open year after year, you have to be good off the tee. I think I tweeted out earlier today. It's like the last 9 U.S. Open winners, like the average ranking they are in strokes gained off the tee heading into that week is like 12th. Cameron Smith, not long off the tee, not accurate, and his results at the U.S. Open kind of reflect that fact. Like, he's not a U.S. Open golfer. His last 4 starts at the U.S. Open, he went miscut, T72, T38, miscut. Thoughts on Cameron Smith if you want a huge long shot to miss the cut?
So I like DJ and Cameron Smith to miss the cut. I looked at both of those guys just because, I mean, and exactly what you said about Smith. Like, this just isn't a style of play that suits what he does well. Like, you know, some courses he can be a little squirrely off the tee and it won't hurt him because he can save himself. That's not the case at a U.S. Open. Like, yes. We like to make fun of the pictures of, you know, the Diet Coke can in the rough or whatever, but like, that's a real thing. And it's hard to save yourself when your ball's settled at the bottom of that, you know? So
I think you were the one who quote tweeted it. And I think it was the first one. And I think, I don't exactly remember what you said, but it's something along the lines like, oh, it's officially U.S. Open week because the first ball in the rough video is dropped.
Exactly.
Classic. Yep. It's a tradition unlike any other. So I didn't quite get Cam Smith to miss the cut, but I think what I would say about Cameron Smith is just don't bet on him or potentially fade him in like head-to-heads. Like, he's still good enough with his approach in a short game. He might still make the cut, but I don't think he's going to be in contention.
And the other thing about head-to-heads is that he'll probably – I looked at the groupings, but I didn't like process them. But he's probably going to be in 3 balls or head-to-heads with bigger name guys who are probably better fits for this. So that's a really good strategy, is to fade him in head-to-head matchups.
Chris Hale just asked a question. He says, odds on Phil missing cut not going to be good enough for look. I feel like Phil's got to be at least minus 200 to miss the cut. I mean, if you're going to bet on a huge minus money thing, I think it always comes down to like a personal preference and usually like how much you actually bet. Because if you have like a $10 unit size, I mean, what are you going to do? Place a bet to get like $250 back? Like, it might not be worth it. If you have big unit sizes, I mean, take the value where you can get. But I haven't seen any miscut odds yet, but I'm going to assume Phil's going to be like minus 200, minus 250.
Yeah, that's where I would see him at either. I mean, I feel like he's a lock to miss the cut. Like, he's playing awfully.
If you just want to place like a 2-unit bet, 3-unit bet on it, I certainly wouldn't. I might do that myself. Because, it's not playing good. You talk about how Dustin Johnson finished at the live golf event. I didn't even see Phil Mickelson's name on the leaderboard. Where did he finish? Do you know where he finished?
I think like T35.
Yeah,
like,
so
it was bad.
I might just – you're right. Chris, I might bet make a massive bet on that responsibly on Phil to miss the cut.
Speaking of, did you see what the last place guy at the live event shot?
No, I think I did, but I forget now. What was it?
24 over, didn't break 75 on a single day of the tournament, and still made 120 grand.
Who was it?
Andy Ogletree.
Oh, that's right. I did see that. Yes. Shout out Andy Ogletree, who was supposed to be like a big prospect in golf, and then he never panned out. I
Yep.
think did he win the U.S. Amateur one year, or he won the NCAAs or something?
He was in the USAM final. I cannot for the life of me remember if he won or not.
But yeah, he was a big name coming up, never panned out. But hey, that's not a bad paycheck to shoot. What was it over par through 3 days?
24.
Not bad.
I saw that and I told my buddy, I said, I'm sending my credentials to live right now if
Yeah.
they're gonna pay me that to shoot like that.
Yeah. All right, let's get into our actual picks to do well. So we're going to start with top 20. Give me your top 20 pick.
You're gonna get really tired of me saying the name Davis Riley, but I'm saying it again. Davis
You
Riley is
love
going to.
Davis Riley.
I mean, he's made me a lot of money this year, so why would I not love Davis Riley?
Fair enough.
I'm gonna ride the wagon till the wheels fall off, and they haven't yet. He has not finished worse than T13 in any of his last 6 starts, including the PGA Championship. He's a young guy who is just playing the best golf of his young career. He ranks third in this field over the last 20 rounds in strokes gained total. And one of the things that I've noticed from reading up on the country club is it takes a complete game. You can't have a deficiency. That's U.S. Open golf. You can't have a deficiency in any part of your game. And he doesn't. He's gaining strokes across the board, and he's gaining big to be, third in the field in strokes gained total recently. The big plus that has seen him, really elevate his level of play has been in his approach game, and that has stayed good, and we're seeing good results because of it. The value's decreasing, obviously. Like I think a couple weeks ago, I got him at like plus 375 to top 20, and now it's at plus 230. But I think if you're still getting north of plus 200 with the form he's in and how he's gaining strokes right now, I think that's still tremendous value for the player in this form.
I mean, he's winning you money. I'm not going to argue, but if golfers had like jerseys, you at this point need to buy like a Davis Riley jersey.
Oh, absolutely. I would do it too.
Maybe if he ever goes over to live and he gets a team jersey, maybe he can buy Davis jersey.
Yeah, I'm gonna get me a Crushers jersey or something. Whatever.
The High Flyers.
Oh Jesus.
4 aces.
I can't wait for Kokrak to be on the 4 aces.
Yeah. Did he commit? He didn't. Wasn't he going to commit, and he hasn't yet to live?
So the scuttlebutt that I've heard about that is the reason he wasn't in London is he had a wedding, and that's why he wasn't at the London event. But all signs point to him still going.
Got it. All right. I have to keep an eye on that. I'm going to become a live fan just because of Jason Kokrak. All right, my top 20 pick. Actually, a little bit far off the board here. I'm taking a little bit of a long shot here, but my big thing that I'm aiming at this week is guys who are good off the tee and guys who are just good strokes game tee to green. I'm willing to take some guys who maybe their short game isn't that great or their short game isn't that strong, because I think if for the guys who aren't good tee to green, their short game is not going to be good enough to make you have to be good from tee to green this week. So my long shot top 20 here, Luke List, plus 425. Fantastic strokes gained tee to green. Unfortunately, he's one of the worst putters on tour, 202nd strokes gained putting. But if he can even have like a half decent, round or tournament putting, I think he can finish top 20 because he's 11th in strokes gained off the tee, 6th in strokes gained tee to green, 23rd in approach. So all of those numbers from the tee box to the green are just fantastic. He just can't putt, but hopefully from tee to green numbers will give him enough of a leg up on the field that his putting won't kill him. And he is coming out of a little bit of a rough stretch. He had a rough stretch where he's missing some cuts, but then he finished a respectable T41 at the PGA Championship, followed it up with a T26 at the Memorial. So his game seems to be trending in the right direction. So complete top 20 long shot here, Luke List.
I mean, I have a soft spot for Luke List after I cashed him 80-1 as the outright winner earlier this year. So
yeah, right.
I can't by contract I cannot hate on Luke List.
What event was that?
For the life of me, I cannot remember. I was literally racking my brain while you were talking about it, trying to remember.
I remember I wrote a long shot article that week, and I put him in as one of my long shot picks, but I didn't actually bet him myself and kicked myself forever for that one. Yeah, great bet by you. And yeah, I forget which event it was too, but it's one of those events where if you were good off the tee and if you had distance, it gave an advantage. So he was a good look that week.
Right.
And hopefully the same thing will happen this week. All right, let's get to top 10. Who's your pick to finish in the top 10?
I'm really playing the hits this week in case you didn't notice when I sent them over. We're going with Shane Lowry to finish in the top 10. Another guy that I really just can't quit. However, I haven't cashed Shane Lowry quite as much as I have Davis Riley, but I'm nothing. Like I said earlier, I'm nothing if not a slave to my numbers, and the numbers say that this guy's game is fit to really succeed at the country club. He's gaining in all four strokes gain category, major strokes gain categories this season and in recent form. He's also only finished outside the top 25 once in his last six starts. Granted, he hasn't been in contention, but he's still finishing well. He's also fifth in strokes gained tee to green over his last 40 rounds, and he's a good putter. So I mean, once he gets on the green, he can really succeed there. His U.S. Open history isn't particularly good, but he has proven when he won the Open Championship and in other regular PGA Tour stops that difficult courses and difficult conditions he's very good at. He's also third on the PGA Tour this year in bogey avoidance, which is one of the key stats I was looking at because that's the thing that goes at U.S. Open is when you're making a bogey that you shouldn't, and he's third in bogey avoidance this season. So I just think his game for a top 10 when I'm getting plus 275 odds, I think he's really primed to show up again this week.
He does have a T9, T2 at U.S. Opens, a little bit earlier in his career. But was it the U.S. Open that he was leading heading into Sunday and then collapsed? What year was that? Or was that the Masters?
No, that was the U.S. Open, and I am trying to remember what year that was. I want to say it was it 19?
He finished T28, so that might make sense. I don't know, but he hasn't been great at the U.S. Opens, but he's shown flashes. Like it's not like his results are bad enough where I'd like stay away.
Exactly, and I mean, so I'm taking him as a top 10 because I don't particularly expect him to be, in the mix to win necessarily, but I expect him to be on the first page of the leaderboard if that makes sense.
Yes, yes, it does. Wasn't 2019. It doesn't really matter. I'm not going to keep looking up. Okay. 2019 was Pebble when Gary Woodland won. Chris Hale chimes in again. Love this comment, of course. Corey Connors at plus 190. Seems like a good look at top 20. Strong finish at Canadian Open, ranking top 10 off the team 2022. Only downside is putting, which is why I'm not going top 10 or top 5. Listen, I was beyond tempted to play Corey Connors again this week. I couldn't do it. But I will say, yes, first of all, I do love him top 20 plus 190, but I've lost so much money on Corey Connors, including last week, finishing one stroke back from cashing for me. I just can't do it to myself anymore. But you're right. Fantastic driver, great approach play. Another thing that I haven't seen anyone else mention, that 2013 U.S. Amateur that I keep mentioning, Corey Connors was in that. And he went deep. I think he went all the way to the semifinals, if not semis. He was there at the quarters. So Corey Connors has played this course before. It fits his style well. I just don't want this show to just be me picking Corey Connors every single week. So I will be staying away, but I do like that play quite a bit. I think there's a lot of things to like about Corey Connors, and he's done well in majors.
I mean, funny enough, Corey Connors is honestly like a better version of Luke List. Like their game, like what they succeed doing is very similar. So
correct.
Makes a lot of sense.
Yes. And yeah, he did finish sixth place at the Canadian Open last week. I'm curious how he's done in the U.S. Opens in the past. Not good. So that would be a little bit of a concern. He's been in the U.S. Open 3 times and he missed a cut all 3 times. So that might be a little bit of a concern, but he's definitely probably playing some of his best golf he's ever played. But I just said I don't want to come on the show every week and pick the same guys and pick Corey Connors, but my top 10 pick, Matt Fitzpatrick.
Oh, yeah. Let's go.
I have to. I'm not doing top 5. I'm not doing to win. So I'm still picking him, but I'm just getting a little bit more conservative this time. But I can't help myself, man. He's still second in total strokes gained. He has literally no weaknesses. He's 10th off the tee, 25th in approach, 5th tee to green, 18th in chipping, 22nd in putting. I can't help myself. He won the 2013. When you told me that fact last week that he won the U.S. Amateur in 2013 at Brookline, I was like, well, there goes one of my bets. Like, I just can't resist. So I'm just going to be conservative. I'm just going to take him top 10. I'm not going to get aggressive with him to win. I'm not even going to take top 5. He had another good week at the Canadian Open last week. I think Saturday's round screwed him. Was that like he only shot like even? So he kind of took himself out of contention, but he still finished what? T7 was it?
T10.
T10, right. Matt Fitzpatrick. Let's get back on this train. One more week.
as I said, like when you look at the numbers, it's hard to argue with Matt Fitzpatrick. I think the only thing that ever holds us back is scar tissue. But I mean, in terms of performance by the numbers, I mean, there's no arguing with it.
And I get seduced by the numbers week after week. I'm just married to the numbers. I can't help myself. I
Nope.
look at the numbers and I'm like, I have to do it because I
Yep.
know as soon as I don't, he's going to win. So there's our top tens. Let's move over to top five now. Top five at the U.S. Open.
Top five. I'm actually taking a page out of your playbook with Xander Schauffele.
No, don't do it.
I have to do it. So, this was a stat that Justin Ray tweeted out earlier today. In the past 5 years, only one player has finished in the top 10 of every U.S. Open, and it's Xander Schauffele. And those are all 5 of his U.S. Open appearances. He has never finished outside of the top 10 in the U.S. Open, and he's finished inside the top 5 3 times
Wow.
over that
I
span.
did not know that, to be honest.
But when you think about it, it makes perfect sense because, like I said before, the U.S. Open is probably the most pure test of everything in your game. Like it's going to put every part of the game to the test. And I would venture to say that in terms of well-roundedness, consistently, there's no one better on the PGA Tour than Xander Schauffele. Like every part of his game, there's no weakness in his game. He just may not have like the elite traits that some other guys do in those aspects. And he's doing that again this year. He's gaining across all strokes gain categories for the season and over his last 40 rounds. And he quietly had a decent enough showing at the PGA Championship at a T13. I know there is Xander doesn't win narrative, which is why I'm going top five. But I mean, history says that he's built to succeed at U.S. Opens, and I'm going to get plus 400 for him to do something that he's done 3 times, like 60% of the time in his U.S. Open career. I'm taking that every day.
I did not know that U.S. Open is kind of because it's always the Masters when I bet on him. It seems like, but yeah, U.S. Open T5, T6, T3, fifth, and T7.
Incredible.
If I would have known that, I might have picked him too.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was surprised you didn't.
I can't do it. For my top five, I'm going to go with my best friend, Will Zalatoris.
There you go.
All jokes aside, when I did talk to him ahead of the Masters, I asked him because I wanted to know how, obviously as a sports bettor, like what kind of courses should we be betting you at? And he said the ones he likes are longer and harder the course is, the better he does. And that is probably why he's had the success that he's had at major tournaments, because that's when those kind of courses happen. I mean, even he cited specifically Torrey Pines as his favorite course. That hosted the U.S. Open last year, so that's a U.S. Open style course. And he finished second there this year, lost to in a playoff to. Who did he lose in a playoff to? Who won that event? Was it
Iain, you're
Burns?
asking me you to remember a lot of things.
Not important, but my point is he did well at Torrey Pines, which is the host of the U.S. Open last year. We all know how well he's done at major tournaments throughout his career. Obviously, he keeps falling a little bit short, so that is why I'm just going to take him to finish top five here. But I keep talking about strokes gained off the tee, strokes gained tee to green, second in strokes gained tee to green, sixth in strokes gained off the tee, first in strokes gained approach. Like, arguably the best golfer in tour for everything but chipping and putting. And even he's not even really a bad chipper, just kind of his putting that's been questionable at times, but his putting is, it shows up at majors. He was right there at the PGA Championship. So top five, my best friend in the world, Will Zalatoris, plus 550.
I mean, you can't argue with it. I mean, the dude is built for this. And I heard a great point a couple weeks ago. It might have been after the PGA Championship talking about Zalatoris, but the reason guys like Zalatoris thrive at a major championship is because it accentuates the strengths of their game. Like when you have to be so dialed in with your ball striking, like someone who likes Zalatoris who just pures everything, it accentuates that so much more because the guys who are off a little bit but at a normal tournament will still, catch a good bounce on the green. You're not going to get that at a major championship. And so I love that. Especially I didn't realize it was plus 550. I love that value too.
And I just looked up who he lost to, and I just answered both. I've answering both questions that I've thrown your way now because he lost to Luke List at the Farmers Insurance Open. So full circle, we answered both questions at the same time, which was at Torrey Pines, which makes sense because I said that was an event that you have to be a good driver at, you have to be good tee to green, and Luke List won it. So coming full circle on the show. So let's get to the final pick here. Our pick to win the 2022 U.S. Open, the third major of the year. Who are you going with?
So I'm going to be one of the people in the pool, fighting for the 100 spots who picked Rory McIlroy because he's winning the U.S. Open. It goes against everything I believe in to pick someone who won last week to win the next week, and also to do it at plus 1,000. Like, that's not the best value, but everything I'm looking at says Rory McIlroy is going to break out of the major slump. Okay, so he now leads the PGA Tour in strokes gained total, which was Matt Fitzpatrick's crown for so long. He's gaining about 2.28 strokes per round total, and he's gaining across all four of the major categories. What's crazy, though, is that over the past 40 rounds, he's gaining 2.57 strokes per round total. And over the last 20 rounds, he's gaining 3.16 per round total. He's also having the best putting round of his career, or best putting strokes gained season of his career, and the best strokes gained around the green since. Sorry, I reversed that. Best strokes gained around the green season of his career, and the second best strokes gained putting season since, and the other one was 2019. So his game has literally never been in this good a form. And he's also top 35 in bogey avoidance, which I mentioned earlier is important. And I just think that, a lot of times we say we don't want to play armchair psychologist and get in these guys' mental situation. But Rory didn't really leave a lot of doubt when he was talking during and after the Canadian Open about he's motivated by this live golf stuff. It feels like he has put it on himself to, be the defender of the PGA Tour. And I truly think that what we saw at the Canadian Open showed the fire that we haven't seen from Rory McIlroy in a long time. Like, that was the swagger, the determination. It was a different player and what we've been wanting to see for so long. And I am fully aware that I am probably going to get hurt again, but I'm all in on Rory McIlroy this week.
Obviously, my cat likes that pick as well. Daisy keeps jumping up on my desk here. Do you ever notice when Rory McIlroy's playing well, like he's like bouncing when he's walking down the fairway?
Oh yeah,
I've noticed that about him. Like, he's like walking on his toes whenever he's playing well. So if you see him walking on his toes this week, it's a good sign. But yeah, I'm not going to argue with that pick. In the past, maybe I'd call you square for that pick. I'm not going to do that because my pick is almost just a square. But yeah, he's won last week. He's driving the crap out of the ball. Arguably one of the best drive. Well, not arguably, he is one of the best drivers. You could make the argument that he's the best driver on tour. I would say the guy I'm going to pick is the best driver, but and that's what you got to do to succeed here as well. So I mean, you'd be hard pressed to find an argument to say Rory McIlroy is not a good pick outside of his major slump.
Yep. I mean, and I think if you're using solely history to argue against something, then your argument doesn't have too many legs to stand on. So.
Correct. Agreed. So my pick to win, we're not taking exactly long shots here to win this week. I'm going to take Jon Rahm, 12-1 here. I think we're finally getting a little bit of value on him. I think odds makers are getting off him just a little bit, but now actually the parts that I didn't like him about him early in the season, he's kind of fixed. Because I think you've even picked him a couple times, maybe like top 5 or something. And I said his chipping and his putting were huge concerns for me. But over his last 4 straight starts, he's gaining strokes around the green, and in 3 of his last 4 starts, he's gaining strokes putting. So like the short game that killed him at the start of the season is rounding back into form. And I said Rory McIlroy is arguably the best driver on the PGA Tour, but I think the best driver is Jon Rahm. First right now in strokes gained off the tee, 4th in strokes gained tee to green. He's the defending U.S. Open champion, and that's not by coincidence. His game is kind of built for a U.S. Open style of course. So, and not a lot of people are talking about Jon Rahm. He's oddly kind of flying underneath the radar this year, despite being the defending champion. Obviously, different course, but yeah, he is like if you like built the robot to do well at U.S. Open events, it would be Jon Rahm. So I will be taking him to go back-to-back in the U.S. Open.
I mean, I love it. I placed a future on Rahm. It's been months ago. I'm trying to remember what event it was. Oh, it was the Phoenix Open when he walked off the green talking about the effing birdie fest. And I was like,
no, he said, wasn't it a putting contest? He said it's an effing putting contest, or did you say birdie fest?
It might have been putting. I think he has two separate ones. There was one where he commented on the birdies, and it may not have been birdie fest, might not have been the phrase, but regardless, I mean, it goes to what you're saying though. He is like Zalatoris. He thrives when you put
Yes.
all the difficulty around him, and he can contend in birdie fest, but that's not where he's at his best. And this is where and like you said, like we haven't seen John Rahm in a tournament at plus 1200 in God knows how long. And so
Yeah.
I really do like the value there as well.
Yeah, I think now is the time when he's gonna. And I mean, he won two events. Obviously, he was like a 3-1 favorite. Like the Mexico Open was a very not even
I
top heavy.
forgot
It was
about
like,
that.
yeah,
Yeah.
he won that. People forget he won 2 starts ago or 3 starts ago. But yeah, he was like 3-1 and then just ran away with it. But I think he kind of needed that. I think that kind of got him his confidence back, got him his swagger back a little bit. I'm curious to see how he is in bogey avoidance. I'm trying to look it up right now. I don't know if I'm going to be able to find it, but yeah, like you said, he's the kind of guy that thrives on events that aren't necessarily birdie fests.
Because
I mean,
11th in bogey avoidance. So great.
not bad, pretty good. Yeah. So, and I think Brooks Koepka said this when he was on his run in the majors in 2017 and 2018 that like the top golfers thrive because like just the difficulty of the course itself like immediately eliminates like most of the field. So it's like you have to be a very, very good golfer for all 4 rounds to be able to win these events, and the large majority of the field they just don't have it in them. So
Oh yeah. And I'm excited to see, the country club because I mean, the U.S. Open hasn't been there in my lifetime. Your lifetime too, I'm assuming. I'm assuming you're not 3
88.
years older than me.
Yeah, no.
So I've never seen it there, but from everything I've read, it's not what we've seen the past 2 years at Torrey Pines and Wingfoot where, you can kind of bomb and gouge a little bit. That's not going to be the case here. Like it's rocky terrain if you're off the fairway, and I can't wait to see Bryson try and, level 360 and it hits a rock and ends up like 220 from the tee because it hit a rock badly. It's going to be absolutely incredible.
Yeah, U.S. Opens, you have to be good off the tee. Some courses, distance is going to give you a bigger advantage, like winged foot. Like you can get away with not being super accurate, like Bryson at winged foot. Other U.S. Opens, like at the Country Club, distance is still important, but accuracy might be a little bit more important. So that's a key thing to note. I did just want to bring up the golfers who did compete here in 2013 at the U.S. Amateur. Scotty Scheffler played in that tournament. Xander Schauffele, your top 5 pick, played in that tournament. I mentioned Fitzpatrick. I mentioned Corey Connors. Bryson DeChambeau, I believe, competed that year as well. Patrick Rogers, who was 300-1, competed at the 2013 U.S. Amateur. So that rounds up the list of guys who competed that, or at least the guys who went on to match play. I don't know if the first 2 rounds of stroke were at this course or not. Very little information about U.S. Amateurs from 10 years ago, unfortunately.
That's crazy. I can't believe that.
Yeah, so there's our show. Do you have any final thoughts about the U.S. Open? Anything else that caught your eye? Any trends? Any stats? Any other golfers that you wanted to bring up?
Not particularly. Honestly, you brought up several of the golfers that I would have brought up. I was going to bring up Zalatoris and I was going to bring up Rahm because, like you said, no one's talking about him. Those were the 2 big ones I was going to bring up if we didn't. But
it is
I'm excited for this week.
It's a very interesting course too. It's not a normal course. It's very old fashioned. I would shoot about a 203 if I played there.
Oh yeah, I saw when Francis May won in the famous greatest game ever played in 1913. He shot like I'm pretty sure it was 82, 78, 80. And granted, that was 1913. Equipment's a little bit different than it was then, but regardless, that shows you just how hard this course actually is.
I do want to bring up 2 actually final questions. Actually, Chris Hale tweeted this at me, and he's also in the chat, so they're actually both by him. He tweeted at me, "What do y'all think the final score will be?" And I think we did ask ourselves this, I think, for the PGA Championship as well, not something we predicted yet. So what do you think the final score of this year's U.S. Open is? Obviously, who really knows, because first time we've seen this since 1988, but what's your guess?
My gut instinct told me 9 under.
Wow, you think it's going to get that deep?
I do. I was 6 under and 88.
Yep.
And looking at that and then just knowing the guys that we have in this field and some of the guys that just fit this course so well, I think it's really going to push it like a little bit further, a little bit deeper.
So 6 under when it won in 88. The last 2 U.S. Opens were also 6 under. Woodland at Pebble Beach was 13 under. But Pebble Beach, I don't really think is like a real true U.S. Open course.
No. It's historic. It's not tough.
Yes. Brooks Koepka 1 over at Shinnecock Hills in 2018. The Brooks Koepka 16 under, which tied the record at Erin Hills in 2017. My guess is 5 under. I'm not going to get as aggressive as you. My guess is 5 under is winning score.
I think that 5 to 9 range is probably accurate. Like, it's going to fall somewhere in there. I don't think it's going to be, a Shinnecock where we're looking at over par. I think it's going to be tough, but I think we have so many of the top players in the world right now playing as well as they are that I think it's going to be impossible to not get these guys several under par.
I'm just looking at past U.S. Opens. 2006 and 2007, the winning score is 5 over. Insane. I don't know if I'll ever see that again. That's wild, though. And then he had one last question, Brooks Koepka. Now, I gave my thoughts on Brooks Koepka on Daily Bet Slip. I got very passionate. I had a very passionate rant about it, and I don't really want to, get as fired up again. So I'll leave it to you. Thoughts on Brooks Koepka this week?
Yeah, I am done with Brooks Koepka. I have decided that we are living in the past with Brooks Koepka. Like, he has flashes of the player that, won 4 majors in 2-year span, but he's not that player. He's not that player anymore. He hasn't been. He has shown us nothing to make us believe that. He has, contended in a couple majors, but like he hasn't won them, and he hasn't contended anywhere else really. So I'm just not on a consistent basis, I should say. And I just think that he's not a player that you can bank on to be there in the majors just because it's a major.
And the 2 majors so far this year, he finished Miscut and T55. So let's start. I'm not saying Brooks Koepka can never get back to where he was, but he's just not there right now, and there's no signs that he's going to be there this week.
And he's coming off a WD, his last event that he entered.
Yes, it is borderline criminal that a guy who ranks 94th in total strokes gained is like 6th or 7th on the odds list at 25 to 1. That's one of the biggest sucker bets I've ever seen in golf history is betting on Brooks Koepka to win this week. How about that?
Oh, I will bring up one other player that I did forget to mention that I brought up a couple weeks ago. Tommy Fleetwood. I've already placed a bet for Tommy Fleetwood at top 20, which is north of plus 200. I can't remember the exact odds, but it's north of plus 200. He's one of 6 players this year to be top 15 in both majors so far this season. And when I picked him a couple weeks ago, I noted that his approach play is starting to round into form. He's an accurate hitter off the tee, and his short game, when he's in good form, is one of his strengths. And so I think he has the all-around – and he's succeeded in U.S. Opens previously. So I think he is a sneaky play for a top 20. I don't think he's going to win, obviously, but a top 20 at north of plus 200, I like that a lot.
I will applaud that. I will not be telling. Tommy Fleetwood is like the original blacklist guy for me. He's the original guy that I swore off betting. I think it was like in 2017, 2018. I was obsessed with betting on Tommy Fleetwood, and he just never won. He broke my heart a million times. He's the first guy I swore off betting. So until he wins an event, I will not be betting on Tommy Fleetwood. But you're right. If you want to do top 20 for a guy who finished T14 of the Masters, T5 of the PGA Championship, I'm not going to say don't do it.
Yeah. And he was 15 at the U.S. Open last year, too. So,
there you go. All right. There's our show. Thank you, everyone, for watching. We went a little long with this one, but for the major tournaments, we got a little bit more to say. So, if you're watching on YouTube, like and subscribe, please. Be sure to enter in the BetSided contest. Why would you not? It's 3 super easy steps, and you might win a $1,000 Visa gift card. So, my hint for you for watching the show is do not pick a top guy. Pick someone a little bit further down the odds list, because I know Justin Thomas, when we did it for the PGA Championship, there was like 38 people who picked Justin Thomas. So then even if you pick the right guy, you have a 1 in 38 chance of winning. So pick someone a little bit further down the odds list, and that's going to improve your odds if they do end up winning. So that's my little hint. That's my gift to you for watching the show. But outside of that, best of luck with your bets this week. Good luck in the contest. I will be out next week for the Travelers Championship. I will be in Canada, living in the tropical or hanging out in the tropical paradise of Nova Scotia, Canada. So I will not be on the show. Cody, you will host it, and we will see who will be your co-host. Hopefully we will get someone to talk Travelers Championship.
Sounds good. I will miss you. I hope you enjoy the paradise and the pina coladas of Canada.
Yes. Pressure's on for you. As acting host, it's a big week for you. You need to hit every single pick that you give out.
I mean, after last week, I think I'm right on track.
It's actually impressive that you picked 2 withdrawals last week, to be honest. I think that's more impressive than hitting it outright. So
exactly. And neither of them were Paul Casey either.
Correct. Paul Casey. Is he playing this week?
I mean, allegedly, but who knows?
All right. We've talked enough. Thank you all for watching. Cody will talk to you next week. I'll see you in 2 weeks from now. Don't even know what event it was. It isn't 2 weeks from now. But next week is the Travelers Championship. Cody will be running the show for that. He'll see you next week. Until next time, good luck this weekend.